Me.
Hi, Bernie.
Let's see. I thought you were going to Iceland and Greenland tomorrow.
Wednesday.
What is it, 10 days? It's
Yeah,
Costa Rica.
yeah.
Should be pretty interesting.
That's a shame. Just to change a little bit.
So you better change into warm clothes.
That's true.
Yeah, especially Greenland.
Right. You were there?
No, but we were thinking about doing it. I hope it's not too long a trip, but it's a long time on the ship.
Yeah.
Uh,
You are not old enough for that.
yeah. You'll be happy to go from there to Israel to warm up a little bit.
And how? From one extreme to another.
Yeah. Correct. Hello, Ernie.
Hello, Bernie.
Hi.
Mark and Harold.
No, talking about the Eilat.
I love.
They're
And where's
they're
it
leaving on Wednesday.
And where's it going afterwards?
Mark
Iceland.
Cruz. What page are we?
Parakdas.
That. Yeah. Mark and Harold are on a cruise right now.
Where is it? Where?
Garden? Where do we go?
We just listened to last week's share.
Parakdas. It's Parakate.
Very interesting.
Correct. We're going to see now that this parak is in Hebrew. The first parak was in Hebrew, and then we moved into Aramaic. We moved into Aramaic because language of the Babylonians was Aramaic. He was having dialogue with Nebuchadnezzar and other officers. So all of the discussions were in Aramaic. When Perek Vav was also in Aramaic because it was discussing what was going on during the rule of the Medes. But their language was also Aramaic. But last chapter, Perek Zion, there were visions, but they were in Aramaic. But now the visions are going to be in Hebrew. So the Abarbanel says that we're going to be told that this revelation to Daniel occurs in the last year of Belshazzar's reign. And so now they're switched to Hebrew to show that now Babylonia has fallen. The Persians used Aramaic, but it was not their native tongue. So the use of Hebrew, the Barbanel says, is to show us that the Babylonian, language and nation has fallen. Some learn that since these visions were told only to Daniel, he didn't talk to anybody else about it. Daniel's language was Hebrew, so it's written in Hebrew as well. So Perek Aleph, Bishna Shalosh L'Malchus Belshazzar HaMelech. We're going back because we've already moved on to the Medes. Remember the character that we dealt with, we read the writing on the wall, and Belshazzar was killed. But we go back, and it says that in the third year of Belshazzar's reign, Chazon nira elai ani Daniel. A vision appeared to me. Achrei nira elai batchila. Nebuchadnezzar and Zechariah Novi had seen the dreams of the four kingdoms, but nobody with the clarity of Daniel. So says the Malbim.
What's between Chazon and what's the name?
Nevuah.
Hmm. A dream.
No, Chazon is a Chazon is a nevuah. Now we'll see. According to the Rambam, a nevuah would only come to people during dreams, but other people learn that no, people could have waking chazons, or nevuah could appear to them as well as awake. But a chazon is like Chazon Yeshayahu ben Amoz. This is the vision that Yeshayahu had at such and such place about such and such thing. Now, I just want to read the Abarbanel. He says, why the emphasis on Bishnat Shalosh L'Malchut Belshazzar? Bi'ikaro bal hashlim l'Daniel Esadiyah me'achaya beis v'gimel. So, previous parak, we learned about the 4 chayos. The first one was a lion, which represented Babylonia. The second one was a bear, which was Persia. Then there was a leopard, which represent Greece. And then the 4th beast, we really didn't, they didn't know. One said it was a chazir, but it wasn't really described. And there was a lot of discussion in the previous parak Zion, of the first Malchus, which is the Babylonian, how it would have fell.
I'm starting Chet.
Yeah, and Benny just texted me.
And the fourth beast, which represented Rome. So Abarbanel says this parak comes lahashlim chayos habeiz ve'agimel. The second one, which was Mede and Persia, and the Gimel, which is Yava. Says, I'm reading the Abarbanel. Shebechazon hakodem lo hitbarer kol kach inyanan. We didn't get a lot of detail about Persia and about
This
Greece.
one. I don't know. I never figured out the explanations here. I don't know, it's weird.
שבמחזה זה נראו אלו המלכויות כחיות ביתיות, ולא כחיות טורפות. We're going to see in this parak a distinction between the beasts that were listed in parak Zion. What kind of beasts they were? Wild beasts. A lion, a bear. These are not domesticated. While
What do you think?
in this parak, they're going to be compared to domesticated. Says the Abarbanel, Kivan shebechazon ze ratzah la'amod al hayachas shelahem klapei am Yisrael. We're going to see that the primary focus is on the relationship between Persia and Israel and Greece and Israel. Very interesting, says the Abarbanel. Shtei chayos halalu,
What are you trying
Horas,
to
Modai, and Yovan, lo hechrivu et Beit HaMikdash. They were the 2 of the nations that did not destroy the Beit HaMikdash, v'lo higlu otam, and did not take the Jewish people into exile. Of course, Nebuchadnezzar of Babylonia did, and the Romans did. Shebe'ot shachar rishon v'revis hechrivu et shnei batei HaMikdash v'iglet Yisrael ha'reish shemodai u'faras v'af yovan lo tarfu osam. They didn't attack them like a wild animal would do. Lekach lo nimshlu kechayos teref. A chayos teref is a predator kind of animal, tears you apart. And these are chayos ksheros. By the way, the Abarbanel says very similar. The Chazon L'Moed, which is another commentator, also explaining a little bit more before we get into this next vision. Kavanata Mareh Rishon, the first vision that he had in Perek Zion, La'arotenu amlachim she'rov yeru liyudum v'malchut ha'acharon shachrav yavo Mashiach. Basically, to give us a grand picture how the nations are going to persecute the Jewish people, and then the final Malchus will be destroyed and come with Mashiach. However, Atab Zotamar, in this vision, Ratzah lo dienu yemei bayit sheni v'churbano. Basically, Parasu Modai occur during the period of Bayit Sheni. Koresh, the first Persian king, lets them go back and build the Beis HaMikdash. They didn't complete it until Daryevish Hasheni, the son of Achashverosh and Esther. But so basically the Persians are during Bayasheni, and certainly the Greeks are. Vayedemi Yev Asiba, because of how did this all happen? Kinei Sibot Mitat Belshazzar Bishna Gimel. Sivev Nitzur Chamadim Vaparsim Alabavlim. It all started, Belshazzar was killed by the Persians. The Medes, really, Darius. The Persians are then going to be conquered by Alexander Macedon, who is going to represent the rise of Greece. And we're going to be told in this parak about that as well. So we have a little bit of an introduction. Pasuk Beis. Va'ereh b'chazon. I saw the vision. Vayhi biroti. As I was watching, va'ani b'Shushan habira. Now, Shushan habira is the capital of the Persian Empire, right? If you remember, Daniel did not live where Belshazzar was, which was in Bavel. He was in Shushan, which is in a province called Elam. That's why originally Belshazzar didn't consult Daniel about the handwriting on the wall. Later on, the queen recommended that they call him. Daniel is going to tell us in a vision that Shushan is going to become the Bira, the capital, which only occurs after the fall of Babylon. Bira is a capital city. The Ibn Ezra and the Radak say Bira refers to a palace. The Vilna Gaon in Esther says Bira is the strongly fortified part of the city. The province of Elam is in Khuzestan. And in southwest Iran, there's a town called Susa, which is Shushan. And there is Mesorah that they know where Mordechai is buried, etc., in this area of Susa. So he sees he's in Shushan. So Vayiberati Vanibishan Asher Be'elam Medina. Va'ere bechazon. I see a vision. Vaniayiti al Uval Ulai. Uval Ulai is the river Ulai. Rav Sadia says it's not a river because there's no river in Shushan. And he says it was probably the name of a city gate. Rashi, Radak say it was a river.
Excuse me. Who wrote Sefer Daniel? Was it Daniel himself recording it?
Yes.
Was Shushan a capital of some state at that point, or is this just
No.
a halom that he knew that it's one thing to say Shushan, but Habira, he's already foreseeing that it will be a major.
Correct. He's foreseeing it. It's not at this time.
Okay.
And when he has this nevuah, Shushan is not yet. All the Meforshim say shehem nevuah latid shebeshazu adayin lo hayta Shushan ir abira shel Poras sherak kama shanim achrei chen b'mei Achashverosh b'shnat hashlishit l'malchuto havir et ir abira l'Shushan she'asa ota l'ir hamlucha. During Achashverosh's reign, his third year, he made Shushan the capital. He built a throne which was similar to Shlomo Melech's throne.
This was because the kisser of Beis Hamikdash, or that he couldn't remove it from there or something.
Yes, they could not remove this throne of Shlomo, and he built it from a new one, like from scratch. It was domeh lekisor shel Shlomo Melech. Lo yachol lavir et hakisei lir hamlucha. So they built it from scratch.
So that's why they made it the Bira.
And then became the Bira once he moved his capital there in the third year of Achashverosh's reign. But at this point, when Daniel has his vision, it's not yet the Bira. So when he calls it the Bira, he's giving a prophecy about the future. In the Mechilta, which is one of the Midrashim, Mechilta to Shmos, says Hashem only reveals himself to prophets in the exile in a pure place. Most of the time it was near water, because water is Metaher. We see that, on the bank, there was a vision to Yechezkel, also was Chutz La'aretz. It was also on a river. So that's also why a river is being mentioned here. Pasuk Gimel. He sees a ram. Omed lifnei ha'uval. It's before the river. V'lo karnaim. He has horns. V'karnaim gvohot. The horns are high. V'ha'achat gvoha min hashenit. One is higher than the other. V'ha'gvoha ola b'achrana. The higher one is coming up last. So all the Meforshim say that the ram represents Persia. Previously it was a bear, but the ram is not, is more of a domesticated animal. That the Ma'aneh Yeshua said, and the Malbim say, that the Persian conduct was gentle and benevolent. We're going to see in Ezra and Nehemiah good relations between Ezra and Nehemiah and the Persians. So it's not a wild animal anymore. It's a ram. Why the two horns? It's the combination of the Medes and the Persians. And the bigger one coming up last, that's the Persians. They were the dominant partner. Darius the Mede is the one who killed Belshazzar, became the first king. He only ruled for 1 year and was followed by Koresh, who was a Persian, was the first Persian king. So that's what we mean by the two horns. Pasuk Dalet. Ra'iti ata'ayil, and I saw that the ram, minageach yama, he's goring westward, v'tzafona northward, v'negba southward. V'kol chayot lo yamdu l'fanav. No other beast could stand in front of this ram. Vein matzil yado could save from it. V'asak kirtzono, he did what he wanted, and he grew. The Persians expanded to the west, conquering the Middle East all the way to the Mediterranean, to the north, conquering Asia Minor, which is Turkey, crossing the Dardanelles into Europe, and to the south, conquering Egypt. That's how the Malbim learns in describing the directions that the pasuk tells us here. Pasuk Hey, Vani ayiti mevin, I was observing and I was understanding that v'hinei tzfir ha'izim ba min ha'arav al pnei chol haaretz. A he-goat from the west comes across the face of the whole earth. Ve'ein nogea bars, doesn't even touch the ground. V'hatzafir, which is the name of the he-goat, Keren chazut bein einav, has a very conspicuous horn coming out of his forehead. The he-goat described here is Yavon. So remember, in the previous dream, Yavon was compared to a leopard. Here now, it's being substituted by a domesticated animal, like we said before. The Greeks were tolerant rulers at the beginning. So we're going to see, we discussed this already, after the death of Alexander of Macedon, who conquered the whole world, which we'll see soon, they divided up, 4 of his generals divided up the area. Ptolemy took Egypt, the Seleucids took Syria, and then the 2 other generals that took, he conquered all the way to India. So they took, the parts of Persia and eastwards. Initially, so you're talking about Alexander the Great died 323 BCE. He was 32 years old when he died. For the first 100 years, up until about 200 BCE, the Ptolemies ruled Palestine.
Ooh.
And the Egyptian general that was Ptolemy, and his queens were Cleopatra. The Seleucids Empire, which was one of these four generals, about 200 BCE, which we'll go into a little bit more detail later, conquered Palestine from them. And Antiochus IV, which is Antiochus Epiphanes, began to persecute the Jews, 165 BCE, which is the story of Hanukkah. But for the first 150 years, the Greeks were tolerant rulers. So again, the same concept, instead of a wild beast, it's a more domesticated animal.
But Rashi says that from that came Titus. Is that Greece?
We're not at Titus yet. Rashi doesn't say Titus here. I don't know where you.
Uh,
Not at this point yet.
Okay, it's
Yeah,
it's Tess. You're right. Okay.
No, not. There's no Rashi here yet. Sefer, So'ir.
Oh, it's a different Karen Achas in Pasuk
Yeah,
Tess.
we'll get there. We'll get there. The earlier Demetrius and after Antiochus, by the way, they when they came, they left temple worship intact. So there wasn't as much cultural, assimilation. And Alexander came from the west. Macedon is a province to the west. That's why it says Mimarav. And why does it say that he didn't touch the earth? Because Alexander the Great, his conquests were with such astounding speed, nothing could delay or obstruct his march eastward. And he ascended to the throne when he was 20. He died suddenly in Persia 12 years later. Some say he was poisoned. Some say he had influenza. Why is he symbolized as a horn, a keren? If you remember, Shmuel, Vayarim keren Meshicho. David HaMelech is anointed through a keren, not through a pach. So the Malbim says that Alexander's victory wasn't just through his courage and strength, but to brilliant strategy and leadership. Pasuk Vav. Vayavoda ayel bala karnaim. Right? The he-goat came to the horned ram, Asher Iti, or Melif Nehuva, that was staying in front of the river. Vayarat Selav Chamat Kochon, runs up to him in full fury. Uri Itiv, I saw Magia Etzel Ayel. It reached the ram, and Vayit Marmare Lav, it fought bitterly with it. From the word maror, bitter. Vayachet Ayel, and he conquered the Persian Ayel. Vayishaber Shtei Kranav, broke the two horns. V'lo koch ba'ayel amod, he didn't have strength to stand in front of Alexander. Vayishlicheu arza, he threw him to the ground and trampled it. Vayirmiseu. There was nobody to save the Persians. There was a great battle, the Battle of Issus, ISSUS in Asia Minor. Alexander against Darius, and he won a decisive victory. And they pulled back to the east. Darius attempted to appease Alexander with concessions, giving his daughter as his wife, but he refused to be conceded. He defeated the armies of Persian and the Medes and threw it to the ground. The might of the Persian Empire was humbled. Darius fled directly into Persia, captured by his own satraps who betrayed him and put him to death. So says the Ralbag and the Ma'anei Yeshua. Pasuk Ches. Utsfira izim higdilad me'od. This Greek empire, this he-goat grew exceedingly. Uchatzmo nishbra keren agdula. But at its highest, its horn is broken. Vata'alena chazut arba tachteha. And a semblance of four came in its place. La'arba ruchot hashamayim, in the four directions of the sky. So this is a nevuah that Alexander's empire is going to be divided into his four governors that followed into four major parts, which were primarily the 4 points of the compass. Now, we are going to the next three psukim that the first pshat is held by Ibn Ezra, the Rabag, the Abarbanel, the Malbim, that the next psukim are referring to the persecutions of Antiochus, the Hashmonaic persecutions and the miracle of Chana Kirkur. Rashi, the Ramban, have a different approach, which we'll see what that is. Pasuk Tes, umin achat mehem, one of these horns, yatsa keren achat mitzi'ira, one of the horns grew. Vatigdal yeter el negev el mizrach v'latzvi. The horn grew southward, eastward, and towards the beloved one, which refers to Eretz Yisrael. So, as I said, the Rabag, the Abarbanel, the Malbim, they learn that this achat, one of these horns, is the Seleucid kingdom, which eventually leads to Antiochus Epiphanes. So one of the four grew. Now, Seleucus had a son, Seleucus II, and then Seleucus' son was Antiochus III. When Seleucus III, heir to the throne, was assassinated, this younger brother, Antiochus III, succeeded him. This is 223 BCE. All was well still. Antiochus III was succeeded by Seleucus IV in 187 BCE. He was assassinated 176 BC, and his younger brother Antiochus Epiphanes, Antiochus IV, seized the throne. And that is what's being referred to according to the Rabag, the Abarbanel, and Malbim. Now, according to Rashi, this little horn refers to Titus and Vespasian when they were ruling the Roman Empire.
Ernie, can I intercede just with, I was curious about we're talking about unicorns here, one horn growing out of two different rulers here. So I looked up which animals are unicorns. There's a one-horned deer and there's a rhinoceros. So who is the great ruler here? Who's the rhinoceros? I would assume it's, we're talking now about, are we talking about Rome if we're talking about Rome? Or are you talking?
No, but remember, we're talking about a goat, a he-goat that has a horn. The animal is the goat. Most goats don't have a horn. This is allegorical. It's not the.
No, but I'm just telling you, I Googled to see whether there's 8 or 9 different animals. The others are all small, water creatures. But
That have one horn?
That has one horn. Then you have the one-horned deer and the rhinoceros among the bigger animals. That's all.
Okay, the rhinoceros is I don't know. It's a different. It's not a horse. Remember, the mythical unicorn is a mythical beast. It's not.
Yes.
There is no horse that has a one horn. So you, as you said, you found examples of animals that might have one horn, like the rhinoceros. But that's not when they talk about the unicorn. I think it was a horse. But I don't think that exists. But here is where Rashi holds that this horn, this little horn, refers to Titus and Rome. Now, very important, 165 BCE is Antiochus, and the Hashmonaim revolt, and then they defeat Antiochus, and they take over the rule. Yehuda Maccabee and his brothers, etc. So you're talking about 150 BCE. Finally, like in 70 BCE, now remember, Julius Caesar is 44 BCE. I just want everyone, we should picture where we are. And then, he's assassinated, and Octavius Augustus becomes the first emperor like 26 BC. The Battle of Actium, he defeats Mark Antony, who's Cleopatra's lover, and then Cleopatra kills herself. We've all seen the movie, right? So you're talking about 26 BCE is the first emperor. Julius Caesar fought now, but before Julius Caesar, so let's go back to the Palestine. There were two kings, Aristobulus and Hyrcanus. Hyrcanus was the Kohen Gadol, but Aristobulus threw him out. And Hyrcanus requested the Romans, Pompey, who was before Julius Caesar, eventually Julius Caesar kills Pompey as he takes over to become the dictator. In 68 BCE, so that's when the Romans really take control in Palestine. Why? Because of a civil war between Aristobulus and Hyrcanus. So why do we always say that the Bayis Sheni came to an end because of Sinas Chinam? This was a civil war between two brothers. This is really what it's about. That civil war, because then one of the parties called Rome, and Rome came in and never left. And Pompey in 64 BC abolished the Seleucid dynasty and established Syria and Palestine as a Roman province. There were still Hashmonite kings. Remember, Herod the Great, who remodeled the Beis Hamikdash, lived at zero. He lived 6 BCE until 30 CE. And then there was a king, Agrippa. He died 44 CE, and then we never had a king again. He was placed under the dominion of the Roman governor of Syria, and that was the last king that we had. Agrippa, 44 CE. So that's what's going on here, where it's either referring to the Antiochus rebelling, or it's referring to the Roman rebellion. Two different Mahalchim. We talked about Aristobulus, yes. So those that say that this Karen relates to Rome, it also refers to Christianity, which is like Roman Catholicism. That became the extension of the Roman rule over Klal Yisrael. Pasuk Yud, Vatigdal ad tzva shamayim. This grew until heaven. By the way, the Ibn Ezra says that these from Pasuk Yud, Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, are the words of the Malach Gavriel, who explained or narrating this vision to Daniel. Shamayim is a name for Hashem. Like it says, V'chola oskim in atzibur yu oskim imem l'shem shamayim. And Tzva Shamayim refers to the Jewish people. We are his army. And those that learn that this refers to Antiochus, he tried to suppress Jewish observance, Chodesh, Shabbos, Mila, no circumcision, no Chodesh, no Yontifs, no Shabbos, and to bring in Greek culture and religion. He threw the Tzva Hashamayim to the earth and some of the stars and trampled them. Some of the Jews were led astray by Antiochus and were hurled down from their honored position as members by joining the pagan multitudes. That's how the Malbim learns. But the Kochavim are the pious ones, the Hasidim, who kept their faith even in their difficult times. Vatir Misaim were that many faithful Jews were martyred during this time. Pasuk Yud Aleph. Ve'ad sarat tzava higdil. This goat exalted itself even up to the Sartzva, to the God himself is called Prince of the Legion, because the legion is the legion of angels. Tzvaos Hashem. That Antiochus dared defy God himself, says the Malbim. Others say that, so, and umimenu herima tamid, the daily sacrifice was removed, v'ushlach b'chon migdasho, and the foundation of the sanctuary was thrown down. There were 3 years, from 168 to 155 BCE, where the Tamid was not offered, was reinstituted by the Chashmonim after that period. So some say this Nevuah refers to that. When it says, those that learn that this is Antiochus, Antiochus transformed the Beis Hamikdash into a temple for idolatry. Thus, in a sense, the temple was thrown down. Josephus Flavius relates that when Yehuda Maccabi and his men entered the Beis Hamikdash, they wept upon seeing its physical desolation. As again, like Bernie said, Rashi says this verse refers to the destruction of the second temple by Titus. Pasuk Yud Beis. V'tzavat tinatein al tamid bepesha. There'll be a set time because of the sins of the Jewish people that there will be no tamid sacrifice. Vatashlech emet artza. Truth will be thrown to the ground. V'asta v'hitzlicha. And it will be a success. So there's going to be a specific span of time in which the Tamid will not be offered. What is this Pesha? Rashi says that it's the sin of the Jews causing the downfall of the temple. And that truth, when it says, Vatashlech emet artza, true faith in Torah will be denigrated, says the Rashi. Rashi says that the Avodah Zorah is called Shomeim. V'chein hi kruya b'sefer zeh b'kamim mekomot. In multiple places, it's called Shomeim. V'nireh, says Rashi, shechidush zeh nischadesh b'sefer Daniel, she'avodah Zorah nasta Shomeim k'mo shmama ba'olmom. It causes destruction. She'ein ba mamashut klal. There's no reality to an idol. Ki chanani mishov zar b'mesirut nafsham likanes likivshan ha'esh lo yishtachvot l'tzelem b'zein bitlu it's yetzir avodah zarah. Through that action, people were always afraid of the avodah zarah, but by them defying it and showing nothing bad happened to them, it weakened or nullified the yetzer for avodah zarah. Shebe'od shelifnei chen haya l'avodah zarah koach shekashayim v'akshim men hayu nanim. People would ask the avodah zarah and things would happen. It was very hard. We had a Gemara that Menashe Melech appears to one of the Amoraim and says, if you would have lived in my time, you would have run after it as well. Explains the Meforshim Kol Zeh Haya Kedei Lenasot Et HaBriot. This was to test people. Like it says in Sefer Dvorim, Ki akum b'kirbecha navi, you'll have a prophet, or chalom chalem, who will tell you about a dream. V'natan elecha otom ofet, he'll give you a sign, and the sign will uvam ofetahu, and the sign will appear. Asher diber elecha lemor, nelchach re'elim achirim asher lo yidatam v'navdem. The Torah says, Lo tishmal divrei naviyahu, o cholem ha'cholomahu ki menaseh Hashem lokechem. He's testing you. Ladat hayeshchem ohavim et Hashem Elokechem. Do you love God or not? The Medrash in Shir Hashirim says, Eimatai ne kar yetzer avodas kochovim, Rav Benaya Omer elu Mordechai ve'Esther. In the time of Mordechai ve'Esther, V'Rabbanan Omru elu Chananim Yisrael v'Azariah. Like the Gemara in Sanhedrin Darshan Tzadik Beis Amud Aleph. Rav Chanina Omar Shenistar Avodah Zarah B'Yimeim. It's like they was castrated. He had no ability lahoilid. Kivan Shiro Umas Olam Nisim Ugvorosh Hashakadosh Baruch Hu Chananya Mishael Azar. The people saw the nisim that occurred with Chananya Mishael. They broke all of the idols. Ubakoach Zeh Bitlu Achar Kach Anshe Knesset Agdola Yitzhar Avodah Zarah V'Okro Soma Olam. After all of this, the Anshe Knesset Agdola had the power to mevatel and annul permanently the Yetzer Hara for Avodah Zarah. Ki Anshe Knesset Agdola Ra'u Chulshat Ador. They saw how weak the generation was. She'eno Yachol Lamod B'Nisur. They would have not been able to stand by the test. Vaya Eit Ratzon Vitanu Gimel Yamim At Shepalu Vitlu Koch Yetzer Hara. They fasted for 3 days, and the Yetzer Hara was left. And but so, by the way, we drive by a totem pole or some avodah zarah. We have no Yetzer Hara for it. We know Yetzer Hara for example, sexual things. You see a billboard or this, people are attracted to that. You see avodah zarah, nobody's attracted to that. So you see the truth of the matter that we don't have a Yetzer Hara anymore for idol worship. By the way, in that Gemara proceeds that the Anshe Knesset said, well, let's be mevatel the Yetzer Hara for sexual desire. They did it, and then the chickens didn't lay eggs because the whole Bria relies on male-female involvement. So they had to bring that back. When it says Vatashlech emet artza, Rashi says Ki churban beit hamikdash hevi l'stimat mayanot hachachma. The destruction of Beit Hamikdash, wisdom, the well springs of wisdom were closed up. Like it says in Eicha, Melachei v'sereb bagoyim ein Torah, gam nevi'eh lo matzu chazon ma'Hashem. Shal yidei churban banu l'matzav shenikra ein Torah. There's no Torah by the churban. V'zeh gam ha'kesher b'tfila. Sha'anu amrim yehi ratzon u'fanecha sheyibona Beit Hamikdash me'er v'yamenu. Why do we make that tefillah? And we say v'tein chalkeinu b'toratecha. V'hu miyusad al pi ha'mishnei avot. It says in Ovis, Yiratzon v'necha shalkeinu sheyibona b'mei Rabbi Yameinu v'tein chalkeinu b'toratecha. Like it says in Yeshayahu, Ki mitzion teitzei Torah, Dvar Hashem Yerushalayim. So it's all connected. We need the Beis Hamikdash for MS and Torah. Pasuk Yud Gimel. V'eshmach ach echad kadosh medaber. I heard a holy one speaking. One of the angels, says Rashi. Vayomer echad kadosh lapalmoni hamedaber. And one of them said to Palmoni, Ad matai hechazona tamid v'apesha shomem. How long will the absence of the Tamid occur? Tate v'kodesh v'tzava mirmam, which permits the trampling of the holy and the host. So the Meforshim say this is Malach Gavriel, who's revealing himself to Daniel in the form of a man. Palmoni is a combination of the word Ploni Almoni, which we find in Rus. An anonymous angel who remains anonymous. The Abarbanel says that the angel to whom the question was addressed is Michael, which is Gavriel's superior in the heavenly hierarchy. Daniel didn't have the schus of hearing Michael revealed to him. He was only able to hear his voice. So Michael remains the anonymous one, this Ploni Almoini. And the question is, how long is this state where we cannot offer the Korban HaTomid, how long will it last for? So when it says Vapesha Shomem, that an idol is going to replace the daily sacrifice, this is reference to Hadrian, 135 CE, who erected an idolatrous temple, an idolatrous area within the Beis Hamikdash. In Perek 12, instead of the word Pesha, there's going to be the word Shikutz. Now, perhaps the change in the language can be ascribed to the fact that Hadrian's temple on the Temple Mount did not last, but later was supplanted by the Muslim mosque, which is still presently on the temple site. A mosque cannot be called Shikutz because Islam is a monotheistic religion. Those of you who attended Professor Shapiro's lectures Shabbos morning at Young Israel Bangkok Park, we learned this. So, but Pesha embraces all kinds of sin and abomination. Certainly it's sacrilegious for the sacred Temple Mount to be used for alien worship, and certainly Islam is alien worship. Pasuk Yudalit. Vayomer Eli ad erev boker. How long is this going to last? Until nightfall, morning. Alpai mushlosh meos, 2,300 v'nitzda kodesh, and the holy will be rectified. So Rashi learns, along with Rav Sadia Gaon, that the gematria of Erev Boker is 574. So if you add 574 to 2,300, you get 2874. So there's going to be, from the time that Yaakov Avinu went to Egypt, it's going to be 1,290 years to fulfill this 2,874. Now, obviously, Mashiach has not come in the year 1290, or let's say after 70 CE, so let's say sometime in the 1300s. So, but the Mishbet Zozav brings, when was this nevuah spoken? So there's Nun Beis Shanim La'achar Churban Bayis Rishon. It's 52 years after the first Bayis Rishon. The Yud Ches Shanim Kodim Lebinyan Bayis. It's 18 years prior to the building of the second temple, which was built in the year 3,408. So this nevuah, that's when it was spoken, at 3,390. If you add this 2,300 to it, you get to 1930, which is when the Nazis began persecuting the Jews. It was actually 1933. But anyway, I saw somebody brought that. I'll have something else to read later on from Elchanan Wasserman about that. Pasuk Tezvav. Vahi biroti ani Daniel techazon. As I'm seeing this vision, va'avaksha bina, I sought understanding. Vinei omed l'negdi kemare gaver. Someone is standing in front of me like a man. This is the Malach Gavriel. He saw the vision of the ram and the he-goat, but he didn't understand what it meant. So he needed the Gavriel to explain it to him. Vayishma kol adam ben ulai. I heard a voice of a man coming from the river, Vayomar, and he said, Gavriel, Avein La'alazet Hamarek. Gavriel, I guess it was this Malach, the voice of Michael, the supervisor of Gavriel, telling Gavriel to tell Daniel the meaning of all of this. I avoid Salamdi, so he came to where I was standing. Uvevo'o nivati, I became terrified. Va'plal pan, I fell on my face. Vayomer elai havein, he told me, understand, ben Adam, you human being, ki le'et ketzeh chazon. These visions concerns the end of time. By the way, the only other person addressed Ben Adam is the Navi Yechezkel. Adam refers to man's highest mission on earth. His mission on earth. The Abarbanel says that the angel is trying to get him to understand the Kates, the end. It's very nebulous to Daniel. We're going to see soon that he's told that he's never going to be told it to clarity. Pasuk Yudches. Uvedabroi, when he spoke to me, nirdamti al panai arts, I fell asleep. Vayigabi, and he touched me. Vayami Daniel and he had me stand up. The awesome side of the angel caused him to lose strength. The Rambam says angels cannot be perceived with human senses. So according to the Rambam, all visions of angels are seen in prophetic dreams. He brings that in the Moreh Nevuchim and the Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah and the Mishnah Torah. Others say that they can't be seen and heard. Pasuk Yutes. Vayomer hineni modiacha. I'm sorry. Pasuk Yudches. No, I'm sorry. Pasuk Yutes. Vayomer hineni modiacha. I'm informing you. Et asher yeh b'achrit hazam. What's going to happen in the future after the wrath? Ki lemoed kates. The time after the exile will be a time of wrath, says the Mitzudos. And the Abarbanel points out, it doesn't tell him exactly what's going to happen. It's to cause Daniel to be more frightened. And in fact, to Yaakov Avinu, when he assembled his sons before his death, he did not reveal the case to them, and he did not reveal it to Daniel either. Hashem has incorporated the Kates into the natural order of things so that the Kates will follow the exile naturally, just as spring naturally follows winter. But the order of nature can be upset by Kodesh Baruch Hu. So there's a moed, which is an appointed time, which is inserted in the cosmic calendar, whether we deserve it or not. But as we've learned before, sometimes it can be brought about earlier because of our zechuyos. Pasuk Chaf. Ha'ayla shera'ita balakarnaim. This ram that you saw is Malchei Modai Uparas. So everything we've already explained is explained specifically by the angel to Daniel. That's how we know that what they are. It was actually said that the ram is meat in Persia. Ve'atzafira seir melech Yava is Greece. V'kerna gdola shebeinav hu melech harishon. The big horn, which is between its eyes, referred to the Greeks' first king, which is Alexander the Great. I've told my Daf Yomi many times that when Alexander came to conquer Palestine, Shimon HaTzadik, who was the last member of the Anshe Knesset Agdola, was the Kohen Gadol. He came out dressed in his big day kahuna. And when Alexander saw him, he fell off of his horse and he bowed down to him. And he explained that he had always seen this vision before his victories, and also had been warned to show him kavod. So Alexander was brought to the Beis Hamikdash. The Kohanim showed him the book of Daniel and pointed to this chapter where his victory over Darius was prophesied. And he was the first king to wield power on a global scale, certainly the first Greek king. And by the way, the Gemara says that year, many Jewish boys were called Alexander, right? Sidney Teichman was Alexander Sender. And my daughter is named Eliza Alexandria because I'm also related to a Shimon Miyaroslav, and we named her Alexandra because of this face-to-face with Alexander the Great. Pasuk 22, Chavdei. V'hanishberes, the broken one. Remember, the one horn was broken into the four generals, the Seleucid, the Ptolemies, right? The Tamod Arba Tachtea, four kingdoms will arise. Arba Malchios Migoya Moda V'lo B'kocho. They will not be as strong as Alexander, which they were not. Uvachrit Malchutam, at the end of their kingdom, Ke'atema Porshim, when the sinners have been finished. That means the time has come that the Jewish sinners, you were talking about the destruction of Baisheni, has to occur. Yamod. There will be a king, Melech Az Panim. That's Titus and Vespasian. Umevin Chidos. The Malbim and Abarbanel says Mevin Chidos refers to the influence of the Roman Church because they have the ability to solve problems the Bible poses for their religion. Ibn Ezra says that it refers to the end of the Seleucid kingdom. Pasuk Chavdalad, ve'etzem kocho v'lo b'kocho. His might will grow, but not through his might. Meaning the Romans won't just rely on their military strength, but they will resort to treachery. And the church's power will be based on the power of persuasion. V'niflaot yashchit v'yitzliach v'asar. He will destroy amazingly. He will succeed. V'yishchit v'atzumim v'am kdoshim. And will destroy mighty ones and the nation of holy ones, which refers to the Jewish people. V'al sichlo, because of his cunning, v'yitzliach mirma b'yadav, he will succeed being deceitful. Uv'vavo yagdil, he will grow haughty. V'shalva yashchit rabim, he will destroy thousands. V'al sarsarim yamod, he will stand up against the Prince of Princes, which refers to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Uve'efes yad yishaver, and without a hand will he be broken. Titus arrogantly defies God, as the Gemara in Gittin 57b tells us. Titus died, the Gemara says like a worm went into his nose and it ate up his brain. Hashem killed him. Umareha erev aboker, and this vision of the night and the morning, asher ne'emar emetu, this is true. Ve'atas to mechazon kliyamim rabim. Here Daniel has said, you must obscure all of these visions. Do not make it public. Conceal it in your heart. And that's why Bernie asked me before, who wrote Sefer Daniel? Sefer Daniel did. So Daniel did not make public what the angel told him. So what we have here in Sefer Daniel is only part of what the angel said, because the angel told him to obscure it. Vani Daniel niyeti v'nechleti yamim. I was broken and ill for days. Va'akum ve'aset lechet hamelech. And then I arose and I was still working for the king. I was confounded by the vision, but no one perceived. I want to conclude. Well, maybe rather than conclude with that, we'll start Perek Test next week, but I will end with an essay of Rav Elchanan Wasserman, the father of Simcha Wasserman, about some of these, about Hitler and how he fits into this. But we'll leave that for next week. Questions, comments, ha'arot?
It's a dramatic parak. And people have pondered over Daniel, what Daniel saw. But it's left unknown.
Correct. But now at least we know what we're talking, when they talk about the four beasts, and there's four different animals, and, you know, there's Perek Zayin, Perek Ches. It's good to know that.
So hard.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody have a great week. Next week's
Okay.
time.
Shkoyach.
Shavua
Okay.
tov.
Shavua
Shavua
tov.
tov.
Pretty amazing story.
Oh, that's all.
No, because he was in a race to get finished with the parak. Whatever, I dropped something. Because he ran out of time, that's all. I mean, it's amazing stories. He foresaw all these things happening with Perush. You can tie it into all the Jewish future world history. That he didn't let the Malachim didn't let him retain his